Atta bin Abu Rabah visited Hisham bin Abdul Malik. He welcomed him and said, "What is your need, Abu Muhammad?" He then reminded him of the shares due to the people of Makkah and Al-Madinah, whereupon Hisham ordered their shares to be sent for them. Hisham then asked, "What else?" He reminded him of the shares of the people of Najd, Al-Hijaz, and frontier states, till he advised him not to overload the non-Muslim subjects. Hisham also asked, "What else?" He said, "Fear Allah, for you have been created alone, and you will die alone, and you will be resurrected alone, and you will be accounted alone." Therefore, Hisham cried strongly. Then Atta left. A man followed him with a purse, telling him that the caliph had ordered it to him for him. But Atta recited the Quranic verse which reads, "No reward do I ask of you for it. My reward is only from the Lord of the worlds." Ash-Shu'ara 109. Then he departed without even drinking a sip of water. Muhammad ibn Ali reported, "I was sitting with Abu Ja'far al-Mansur, the Abbasid Caliph, along with Ibn Abu Daib. Al-Hassan ibn Zaid was the mayor of Al-Madinah. Then the people of Ghaffar entered, complaining to Abu Ja'far from Al-Hassan ibn Zaid, who said, "O Caliph of the believers, would you ask Ibn Abu Daib about them?" Abu Ja'far asked him and he said, "I testify that they defame people's honors." Abu Ja'far told them, "Have you heard this?" Then they asked him to inquire after Al-Hassan ibn Zaid. Doing so, Ibn Abu Daib said, "I testify that he does not judge justly." Abu Ja'far told him, "Have you heard this?" Al-Hassan ibn Zaid asked him to inquire after himself. Doing so, he said, "Pardon me," but he insisted. Therefore, he said, "You have unjustly taken this property and given it to the ineligible persons." Abu Ja'far told him, "By Allah, but for my being the Caliph, the Romans, the Persians, and the Turks would have seized even your seat. But Ibn Abu Daib replied, "Omar and Abu Bakr were caliphs long before you, but they distributed properties justly, and they ruled over the Romans and the Persians." Abu Ja'far pardoned him, saying, "Verily, had not I known that you are truthful, I would have cut off your head." Ibn Abu Daib said, "Verily, I am more truthful to you than your son Al-Mahdi." Al-Ghazali narrates that Abu Ja'far sent for him. He says, reaching him, he asked me to have a seat and wondered, "Why are you so late?" I asked him for his intention. He replied, "I want to learn from you, O Caliph." I said, "Beware of listening to something and ignore it." Arabi was annoyed and tried to draw his sword, but the Caliph reprimanded him, saying, "Of our meeting, we seek reward rather than punishment." Therefore, I became delighted and spoke freely. Bashir reports that I said, Allah's Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said, "Whenever a ruler die, cheating his subjects, he will never enter paradise." Reported by Abu Naim. "You have been," I continued, "preoccupied with your own affairs rather than those of your diverse subjects. They all have their own share of justice. What will you do when they complain of your injustices inflicted upon them on the last day?" Habib bin Salama narrates, "The Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, asked a Bedouin to retaliate from him due to tiny unintentional scratch. Gabriel visited him, saying, "Muhammad, the Almighty has not sent you as a despotist, nor as a tyrant." Therefore, he summoned the Bedouin and asked him to retaliate for himself. The Bedouin said, I have pardoned you. I can never do so even if you had killed me. Then he prayed for him. Reported by Al-Bahaki. Al-Azwai then continued, reform yourself by yourself and try to secure it from Allah's wrath. What if your predecessors were alive? You would not have become a caliph. Allah says in the Quran, they will say, woe to us, what a book is this? It leaves out nothing small or great, but takes account thereof. Al-Kahfi 49. O Caliph, he said, your grandfather Ibn Abbas commented on this verse saying, the small thing is a mere smile, whereas the great is the laugh. Then tell me, what about practical sins? I know that Omar said, I fear that I may be accounted for a sheep dying on Euphrates. How about those who underwent your injustice? O Caliph, Al-Azwai continued, Allah says in the Quran, O David, we did indeed make thee a vicegerent on earth. So judge thou between men in truth and justice, nor follow thou the justice.
It's another story by that Atta bin Abu Rabah. Atta bin Abu Rabah radiallahu rahmatullah alayhi was another tabi'i, and during the time of Hisham bin Abdul Malik. Actually, Hisham, he was brother of Sulaiman. As I discussed before, Sulaiman ibn Abdul Malik, his brother was Hisham bin Abdul Malik. And this Hisham bin Abdul Malik was also a caliph. When Atta bin Abu Rabah came to him, when he came to visit Hisham bin Abdul Malik, he welcomed him and said, what is your need, Abu Muhammad? Abu Muhammad was the kunya of Atta bin Abu Rabah. He then reminded him of the shares due to the people of Makkah and Al-Madinah. So he came to visit him not for his personal interests, for personal needs. Rather, he came to see him for the benefit of the people, for the interests of the people. Whereupon Hisham ordered their shares to be sent for them. Hisham then asked, what else? He reminded him of the shares of the people of Najd and Al-Hijaz. Najd, Hijaz, they are the places of in Arabian Peninsula as Makkah, Medina. But another definition of Al-Hijaz is that the Makkah and Medina together are known as Al-Hijaz. And frontier stages still he advised him not to overload the non-Muslim subjects. So besides observing the rights and shares of the Muslims, Atta bin Abu Rabah also advised him that he should not overload the non-Muslim subjects, that he should not do any sort of injustice against them. Hisham also asked, what else? He said, fear Allah, for you have been created alone. This very, can say, the heart-rending nasiha. Fear Allah, for you have been created alone, and you will die alone, and you will be resurrected alone, and you will be accounted alone. Wallahi, summa wallahi, if any person remembers this nasiha, it's enough for him to be pious. If a person realizes that we were created alone, and I will die alone, I will be raised back to life alone, and then I'll be accounted alone. There'll be no one. So actually our journey started in loneliness, and this loneliness will be again, we will see this again after our death. It is just a short period of time in which we are connected to different people. We are connected to our family members. It is a short span of time. So we started our journey as alone, and it will go along alone. And even on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly says that يَوْمَ يَفِرُّ الْمَرْءُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ وَأُمِّهِ وَأَبِيهِ وَصَاحِبَتِهِ وَبَنِيهِ. And that day, that means day of judgment, يَفِرُّ الْمَرْءُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ, a man will run away from his brother, وَصَاحِبَتِهِ وَبَنِيهِ, from his spouse, from his wife, and from his children, and from his father and mother. وَفَصِيلَتِهِ الَّتِي تُؤْوِي, from the tribe or from the family he used to be in. He will run away from all of them. His sole objective that he be saved. So our journey will be all alone, and there will be no one who can help us except our good amal. So Ata ibn Abu Rabah, rahimahullah, he said to him that fear Allah, for you have been created alone. And he is saying this to the one of the strongest Khalifa in the Muslim Ummah, Hisham ibn Abdul Malik, known for his bravery and known for his intelligence. Again, as I said, during the time of Umayyad Caliphate, the Islamic rule was almost in 3 continents: Asia, Africa, and Europe, some parts of the Europe. So, and this is, you see how a common person was able to give nasiha to the ruler, the one who is ruling over 3 continents almost. Therefore, Hisham cried strongly because he realized this, and this is true, that I was born lonely, I will die lonely, I will be resurrected lonely, and then I will be accounted for lonely. So he cried strongly. Then Atta left, rahimahullah. A man followed him with a purse, telling him that the Caliph had ordered it for him. But Atta recited the Quranic verse which reads, La nuridu minkum jaza'an wala. Sorry, in ajriya illa ala Allah. In ajriya illa ala Allah rabbil alameen. No reward do I ask for you for it. My reward is only from the Lord of the worlds. So he gave nasiha. I said, I don't want to charge anything for my nasiha. Rather, I will get the reward for this nasiha from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he departed without even drinking a sip of water. Muhammad ibn Ali reported, I was sitting with Abu Ja'far al-Mansur. And we know that after the Umayyad Caliphate, there was a transition from Umayyad Caliphate to Abbasid Caliphate. Firstly, there was Al-Khilafat al-Rashida. And after Al-Khilafat al-Rashida, the transition was to Umayyad Caliphate. And then from Umayyad Caliphate, the transition was to Abbasid Caliphate. And Abu Ja'far al-Mansur, he was one of the mightiest caliphs of Abbasid Caliphate. And Muhammad ibn Ali reports, I was sitting with Abu Ja'far al-Mansur, the Abbasid Caliph, along with Ibn Abi Dib. Al-Hasan ibn Zayd was the mayor of Al-Madinah. Then the people of Ghaffar entered, complaining to Abu Ja'far from Al-Hasan ibn Zayd, who said, O Caliph of the believers, would you ask Ibn Abi Dib about them? Abu Ja'far asked him, and he said, I testify that they defame people's honors. Abu Ja'far told them, have you heard this? They then asked him to inquire after Al-Hasan ibn Zayd. Doing so, Ibn Abi Dib said, I testify that he does not judge justly. Abu Ja'far told him, have you heard this? Al-Hasan ibn Zayd asked him to inquire after himself. Doing so, he said, pardon me. But he insisted. Therefore, he said, we have unjustly taken this property and given it to the ineligible persons. You see, their boldness, their courage was due to the Iman. When Iman is stronger enough, it makes a person to speak the truth, and a person can easily call a spade a spade. Otherwise, there are a number of manipulations, especially bearing the witness against those who are men of authority, about whom usually common people think that if we are closer to the authority, men of authority, we shall be benefited. We can acquire a lot of benefit. But these people, the men of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ahlullah or Rijalullah, these true men of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what matters to them only is the pleasure of Allah and welfare of the people. That's why they were bold enough in front of the mightiest people on the planet. And then he, Abu Dhaib, he referred to Abu Ja'far Mansur, Abu Ja'far al-Mansur, that you have unjustly taken this property and given it to ineligible persons. So those who you have appointed, they are not also good. They are not providing any good to the people. Abu Ja'far told him, by Allah, but for my being the caliph, the Romans and the Persians and the Turks would have seized it even your seat. Okay, you say that we have forcibly taken uh, this seat because I said there was a transition from Umayyads to to Abbasids. Umayyads, their origin was from Sayyidina Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And Abbasid, their origin was from Sayyidina Ali and Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib radiallahu anhu. They were known as Banul Abbas or Abbasids. Then Abu Dhibs replied, Omar and Abu Bakr were caliphs long before you, but they distributed property justly and they ruled over the Romans and the Persians. So it is the justice that establish and that guarantees the consolidation of the rule. If any nation, any person, any ruler, he resorts to any sort of injustice, then, as Imam Ibn Khaldun says, rahimahullah, الظلم مؤذن بخراب الأمران. Wherever there is injustice, الظلم مؤذن بخراب الأمران. Wherever there is any injustice, it only brings the wrath to the people. It only brings destruction to the people. So wherever there is injustice, there is destruction. However, wherever there is justice, there is prosperity. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He loves a person, and Prophet said sallallahu alaihi wasallam that 7 type of people will be under the shade of the Rahman on the day of judgment when there is no shade except the shade of him. Among the 7 people is Al-Malikul Adil, the just ruler, who rules with justice, who does not inflict any sort of injustice upon anyone, who uphold the scales of justice, come what may. And this ensures the consolidation of the state. Actually, there are certain objectives of the governance. One of the basic objective of governance is establishment of justice. So any society, any ruler, or any country, or any nation who fail to deliver this justice, they are ruined, they are destroyed. And any ruler who established the scales of justice, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala consolidates his position. Imam Ibn Khaldun rahimahullah has developed his theory of Asabiyya, the group consciousness. He says that any society where people face injustice, that ruler or that rule or that dynasty which rule over the people is bound to be perished. Because zulm or injustice won't stay for a longer. It has to go. And it has to be replaced by the justice, by the just order. And those who hold the scales of the justice, as I said, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that on the day of judgment, among such 7 people will be the Al-Malikul Adil, the just ruler. So rule is very important, which has to be practiced according to the justice. Then he said, Abu Bakr and Umar were caliphs before you. Actually, he gave them excuse that if I would not have seized the power, then it would have been seized by the Romans, the Turks, and the Persians. Then Sayyidina Abu Zib rahimahullah, he said to him, Umar and Abu Bakr were also caliphs long before you, but they distributed property justly and they ruled over the Romans and the Persians. Abu Ja'far pardoned him, saying, verily, had I not known that you are truthful, I would have cut off your head. Ibn Abi Dhib said, verily, I am more truthful to you than your own son, Al-Mahdi. So when he gave this harsh nasiha to him, that you have seized the power and appropriated the power unjustly, and you are not able to hold the scales of justice. Naturally, the Khalifa became disappointed. He became very angry. Then he said to him that if he were not known that he was truthful, because his character was known to everyone, his upright character was known to each and everyone. Then he said, verily, I am more truthful to you than your own son, Al-Mahdi. Mahdi was the son of Abu Jafar al-Mansur, Mahdi. So one of the Abbasid caliphs was Abu Jafar al-Mansur. So his son was Mahdi. And Abu Dhib said to him, verily, I am more truthful to you than your own son, al-Mahdi. Means, I seek your benefit. I seek your good. There's no any bad intention on the part of Al-Awza'i rahimahullah. And this Imam Awza'i rahimahullah, this Abu Dhib rahimahullah, he said to him that he's more truthful to him than his own son Al-Mahdi. Al-Mahdi was another stronger caliph of Abbasid Caliphate. He said to him, I am more truthful to you than your own son. Means that I give this nasiha to you, and I am more sincere to you even your own son. So I wish good to you. Even your son would not wish such a good for you which I wish for you. So actually here he's trying to show his sincerity towards the Khalifa, that there was nothing wrong with him. And and Khalifa also, knowing the character of Ibn Abu Dhib, he knew his character, and he said to him, had I not known that you are truthful, I would have cut off your head. So you can see now here a kind of uprightness of the Khulafa as well, the caliphs as well. Though they were not the scholars of Islam, they were not having the in-depth knowledge of the Islam, but one thing is that their devotion and their submissive nature before the teachings of Islam was quite evident. Whoever it was, whoever it happened to be. So their devotion to Islam, their love for Islam, and their respect for the scholars, it was evident. That's why, do you think that in our modern day era, if a person happens to be harsh towards against any minister, then he will just forget it about? Or he will overlook this? Definitely not. Definitely not. If any person says anything against any minister or any low rank officer, he'll be pushed behind the bars. He'll be pushed behind the bars with this pretext that don't you know that whom you are talking to? Don't you realize his position? So these are the things that the things have altogether now changed. Things have completely changed. That's why one of the advised over the statement. One of the tabi'in said to the taba tabi'in, so this is during the same time period about which Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that khairul quruni qarni thumma alladhina yalunhum thumma alladhina yalunhum. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said there are three blessed generations. One of Sahaba, second of tabi'ins, third of taba tabi'in. So these three generations are known as the most blessed generations. And so three generations comprised of Sahaba, Tabi'in, and Taba Tabi'in. So Tabi'in is a middle group, which is a connection, which is a link between Taba Tabi'in and the Sahaba, Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayhim ajma'in. So one of the Tabi said to the Taba Tabi that if you were to see the Sahaba, you would definitely say that they are mad people. They are insane. Observing their devotion to Allah, their sacrifices for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you would see them, you would say that you would definitely say that they were insane people, senseless people. And if the Sahaba would see you, that is the Tabi'in, they would say they are kafir. Many a times I think, Ya Allah, this is during the time about which Prophet ﷺ said is the best of the time. Now, if they were supposed to see our time, if they were supposed to see our own era, what they would say? And he said that if the Sahaba if they was, if they were to see you, they would say they are kafir. Means, and this is regarding the Tabi. And if he would have seen us, then they would have to think about coining out a new term, a new terminology, new term to understand this, because our approach to Islam is quite indifferent now. Our all focus is upon just the worldly things, and it's very difficult for us to understand anything other than dunya. So our mental orientation is like this, that we never think